Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes, thank you. Welcome to the May 21st, 2015 regular meeting of the Anderson Township Board of Township Trustees. Thank you all for coming on this chilly winter day. Isn't it winter?
It's not.
Well, it felt like it. Anyway, please join us in the most important thing we're going to do today, and that's the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented, or with, actually with modifications, slight modifications.
Many modifications. Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes, thank you. We have a couple of presentations here. Paul is not here. Who is?
Allison.
There you go. Allison's going to do it. Thank you.
At least this time you didn't look at me and call me Paul,
an
because if I start looking like him, we got problems. We really wanted to take some time this evening to thank and to recognize Harry Heskamp for his service to the township. He started as an alternate on the Zoning Commission in December of 2006, eventually moving up to chair the Zoning Commission. And he's done so much for us over the years, from the Development Advisory Committee, the 4th of July Parade Committee, and just various other activities. He's dedicated a lot of his time and service to us. So we wanted to take some time this evening and recognize him for that.
Thank you. Where is that?
Right here.
There he is.
Let's take it over.
We'll take it over there.
Good job, Harry.
Hey, partner. Good.
And to Harry Heskamp, in recognition of his service on the Zoning Commission during 2006 and 2012, and the Development Advisory Committee from 2006 to 2012, presented this 21st day of May 2015 by the Anderson Township Board of Township Trustees.
Well, thank you very much. Oh, I should say something. This all started in a bar, and Jerry Grove got me interested in the Beachmont Development Committee for the, not for the township, but for the chamber. And it went on from there, and that's been 30-some years ago. And I walked the riverfront one time, and there's the Ohio riverfront. Now I see you guys are going to do something about it. So it's just for people who have lived here 30 years and longer, just what the years have made. This is unbelievable. You can go from Belterra down to the golf course, which is the county, but the soccer fields, what the Park District has done, and everything else. And I just really appreciate the opportunity to work over the years with a bunch of great trustees who, and I have to mention Steve Sievers, who has allowed us to take some leeway with the 4th of July parade at times. So thanks again, and thanks for just allowing us to do what we can do. You bet.
What about the fiscal officer that you've known for 57 years?
Yeah, let me just mention, I've known him since high school, first day of high school.
Thank you, Harry.
Thanks, sir. Vicki, we have one other presentation.
Yes, good evening. 3 years ago, a group from the township, the Anderson Township Historical Society, and the Forest Hill School District got together and talked about how we can promote the history of Anderson Township to our youth, how we can teach them and educate them to keep the history cherished and to share it from generation to generation. The Historical Society has a long, proud tradition of preserving Anderson's history, and they were a tremendous participant in what became known as the History to Schools program. This year was the third year. We have second grade students from all 6 of the Forest Hills school districts come here, as well as the third grade class from IHM. The students arrive about 9:50 in the morning, and they leave about 1:30 or 1:45 in the afternoon. So for 7 days, we had about 100 students here each of the 7 days, and throughout that entire time, we had a number of docents and experts from the Historical Society that manned both the history room on the lower level, and also they did a presentation up here in our large conference room for these students. It was all volunteer hours. They created not only the PowerPoint presentation, the gentleman I'm going to introduce actually carved and made some flat boats and things to use as part of the educational process. They brought treasures from their archives, and they also created a history challenge that was distributed to each of the students for the students to follow up and visit each of the historical places throughout the township. Again, this was all done with volunteer hours from the Anderson Township Historical Society, and the board has a certificate we'd like to present to Mr. Don Perry, who is the current president of the Historical Society.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, I can talk while I'm It's been a pleasure working with the township these 3 years and all the other things we've done with the sidewalks, with the history room. They've been a great partner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Okay. At every meeting, we set aside time for any citizens who wish to address the board. If you'd like to come forward, we ask that you state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 5 minutes. So if anyone would like to come forward, please do so now.
Good evening. My name is Bob Drake. My address is 1104 Bernie Lane, 45230. I first wanted to say thank you to the trustees for their attention at a previous meeting when the public spoke on behalf of maintaining Johnson Hills Park, and also spoke in opposition to the proposed tax levy being planned by the Anderson Park Board. At the last meeting, the trustees indicated that they were planning to explore a coalition with various organizations and groups to purchase the Beach Acres Recplex in an effort to prevent the tax levy from being necessary. And I'm curious to know first if you've had any success with that, and I'm hoping, since I didn't see it explicitly mentioned on the agenda, that you can address in some way, shape, or form your progress on that effort. Okay. Second, I also am curious to know if you've had an opportunity to appoint park board members, for the coming, calendar year. I believe they were to be appointed beginning in May, and I'm just curious about the stance. So if the trustees are able and willing to address that, I appreciate it.
I will address your second question first.
Okay, thank you.
There was a public solicitation for interest in being appointed to the park board. Suzanne, what's the deadline? There you go. And at some time after that, we will have an interview process and then an appointment. I would remind you that based on our legal counsel's opinion, board members serve until replaced.
Yes.
So even though those terms technically expire, they continue to serve. As to the first question or comment, I'm not quite sure that I understood what was said at that last meeting is what you said, Mr. Drake. So there were some personal comments made by board members. This board took no action any way, shape, or form regarding anything along the lines of what you said. So, Mr. Garth, if you want to tell us your memory of it.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I certainly made some comments about the idea of beach acres and that we've been exploring some ideas of beach acres. I don't believe at any time I mentioned we were going to purchase the Recplex. So I think, the ideas are still out there floating around, and we're exploring them, we're listening to them, and, but nothing has been made, no decisions have been made, and so I can't address a question that what we're doing.
Okay, and I appreciate it, and if I implied that a decision had been made by the trustees, my apologies, that wasn't my intent. I know that you held an executive session in conjunction with Forest Hill School Board and also with the Park Board, a couple of weeks ago, I believe, and I don't know if you're able to share anything as a consequence of the outcome of that meeting, or if there's anything at all you can report as a consequence.
We can legally share with you the fact that we had an executive session with those
We've had two of them, actually.
Two boards. We've actually had two, that is correct. That's the extent of what we could publicly discuss. So, we'll keep you posted on it.
And we appreciate it very much. Thank you.
We want the good things to happen, that's for sure.
That is for sure.
As do we all.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Anyone else?
Greg? Nothing? You sure?
You sure?
Thought you were going to say something.
No one? One more chance here. Okay. Okay, Greg. All right, with that then, we will close the public forum section and move on to trustees' comments. We'll start with Mr. Pappas.
We're going in complete opposite order. It's okay. I love that. I love when we do this.
Not complete, but some...
No, complete, but that's okay. I just
Inverse.
Inverse order. That's fine. I'm totally prepared. I'd just like to bring to everyone's attention that this is National Public Works Week, and I'd like to thank our Public Works Department for all the fine work we do, and bring to everyone's attention that although we don't like to see the orange barrels and the orange cones and the construction equipment in the roadway, we have a limited construction period, so we have to get a lot of work done in a limited amount of time. And I'd like to ask that everyone please obey, the public obey the traffic signs and the safety signs, and give these guys wide berth and slow down. And it is a job that is quite dangerous. You're working in a hostile environment in more ways than one, depending on when the road is blocked. But remember, these guys are out there doing a good job, and I'd like to personally thank each and every one of them on behalf of the township for the work that they do, and ask the public be cognizant of the fact that it's a dangerous situation. Slow down, watch out for the guys in the orange vests, and when you see an orange barrel, just slow it down a little bit and take it easy. Thank you. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you. Mr. Garth.
I just wanted to expand upon Vicky's comments earlier about the History of Schools event. I know, that was probably something when it was brought up 3 years ago was a tough thing to basically do, because it does take a lot of time, it does take a lot of effort, but it is it's a very collaborative thing. Not only is the Anderson Historical Society part of that, we have the Public Works Department, we have the Sheriff's Department, we have the Fire Department, we even have Newtown, as they're part of Forest Hill School District, who is part of the whole ordeal, and it's a great example of collaboration. It's a great example of how the people that work and volunteer in this township go above and beyond on a regular basis, and so I think it's important. I know the trustees were asked to be part of it and talk a little bit about government, and nothing says fun to second graders like talking about government. So it's a very unique thing, I think, for this township, and I think the kids actually do get a kick out of it, and they see the trucks and all those things. And so Richard and, Molly, who's in the back, the ones that don't get a lot of credit for spending a lot of time and work, thank you guys. Vicki, thanks for everything you guys do. Suzanne, Steve, I know it's a big thing to get through, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. I'd like to first make two announcements. One, if you don't know, Memorial Day, big event here in the township. At 11:45, we have a bell ringing ceremony, and it's quite a solemn event, but it really is impressive. We ask you all to join us. Rain or shine, we'll be out there. Memorializing our veterans. Secondly, I wanted to make sure that you noted that on Wednesday, May 27th, here at the Anderson Center, 6:30 p.m., the Hamilton County Sheriff is going to hold a heroin forum. As you know, this issue is just getting out of control. And the sheriff is holding several around the area, but this is the first one, and obviously the most important one, where citizens can come forward and see what they can do to help slow down this process. And so we ask you to join us. Once again, it's Wednesday, May 27th here at the Anderson Center, 6:30 p.m. Lastly, if you haven't read about it, we were able to reopen Hillcrest Cemetery yesterday as a result of a great deal of volunteer help, and particularly just a wonderful donation from Asplin Tree Service and Duke Energy. There were over 30 trees that needed to be removed. We had to close the cemetery last fall because our concerns about the dangerous conditions. There were so many trees that were ready to go. The folks from Asplin came in yesterday, and it was very impressive just to watch them take the trees down. But once again, we want to thank them, and we want to particularly thank Jim Moorfield, because he was instrumental in getting these folks there. So, Molly, if you would pass that along to Jim, we truly appreciate the effort. Even though, Hillcrest is not owned by the township, we have a responsibility to take care of the cemetery, and in particular the 1,400 indigent black veterans who are buried there. So, once again, thank all of them. Okay. Moving forward, our fiscal officer, Mr. Ken Dietz.
Thank you. We have financial reports, the fund report, revenue, and appropriations report. The revenues look good, but we have to realize that we just had the first half tax collection, and that kind of skews things a little bit. We'll have another collection going on during June and July, so our revenues are going to look pretty good going into the second half of the year, but we have to realize that we won't receive those real estate tax collections after sometime in August. So it's kind of hard to view that. The expenditures are pretty much in line. We're under what the budget called for. We do have some encumbrances that we're going to have to pay in the next 8 months, but it looks like we're going to come in under budget again, as we have in all the past years, so looks pretty good. No appropriation changes today, so that's all I have.
Nice work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Great. Thank you, Ken. Law Director, Margaret Comey.
No report per se. The ACT documentation will be handled by Vicki Earhart.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Planning and zoning. Allison, you got another shot at the golden ring here.
Yes, before you tonight is a motion for consideration regarding sidewalks and the engineering of sidewalks on Wolfengle. The township, through a TAP grant, will be constructing a sidewalk on Wolfengle, on the eastern side of Wolfengle, from Bowen to State. Along the same area, both Valvoline and Kroger will be constructing sidewalks in fulfillment of zoning requirements. With the associated changes coming up to Wolfengal, Bowen, and Town Center Way in the future with the Kroger expansion and with Town Center development, this may be the time to go ahead and connect those pieces together and have one complete sidewalk. Thomas Graham and Associates is an engineering firm that is already doing the engineering for Wolfengal Road and will be working on that project along with Hamilton County. So staff felt that this may make sense to at this time pursue engineering and construction through them and coordinate the efforts.
Just one question,
Yes.
if I may. Does Valvoline, I thought they did not own the property that parallels...
They do not own the portion of the street about 10 feet in from the right-of-way right at the corner. North of there is owned by Valvoline. So they will construct a sidewalk through that portion. It's primarily parking lot, and then there's a little bit of a grassy open area.
Wonderful. Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I move to authorize the expenditure of up to $55,000 in TIF funds for engineering with Thomas Graham Associates and construction costs with the Hamilton County Engineers Office associated with Wolfengal Road sidewalks in coordination with Kroger-funded Wolfengal, Bowen, Town Center Way improvements.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Sheriff's Office, Lieutenant Matt Guy.
I will be brief. It's been a busy week. The only item we have on the agenda for our agency is, once a year, we get a request for the annual liquor license renewal for all the liquor permit premise in Anderson Township, and if we have any dealings with them, we can voice any objections to the Ohio Liquor Board. Luckily, this year, we have actually had no dealings with any of the liquor establishments in Anderson Township, so we have no objections to the renewal of the license.
Thank you. I know I usually do, but I'm going to let you do it.
You always do the liquor.
Okay, I'll move that in response to the annual request from the Ohio Department of Commerce for board guidance in its annual renewal of liquor license for all permit holders within Anderson Township not to object to any such renewals.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt. Public Works, Richard Shelley.
Good evening, and thank you for your kind words earlier, or I'll certainly pass it along to our staff for all the efforts that they make in the field. What you have before you tonight is one of the most exciting things we do all year, which is the award our street or curb program for that particular year. This year is the 2015 street rehab program. The curb and sidewalk repairs were accomplished last year, so this year we're going to grind and pave. It's going to include every street that we did curb on last year. You have the bids before you. The most exciting thing is there's a couple of hills that we've been waiting to get to in relationship to the special open graded friction course that have been in bad condition for years. This will tighten those up, those two hills in particular, Williams Creek and Overlook Hills. They're in this contract, and it'll knock out two more of our, what we call trouble hills, for snow removal and ice buildup. So we're excited about being able to knock those off our list. And what you had before you was also a very competitive bid opening, with a bid opening of less than $2,000 between the two bidders. We're down to two bidders at this level because of the size of the contract. However, you feel good about the competitive nature of it when it's less than $2,000 on a $790,000 contract.
That is a tight
Tight bid. The better part of that, it was over 13% under the estimate. That is the...
Yeah, we really, we had hoped that the low fuel prices would contribute to lower asphalt prices. Typically, that's the case. But we did see labor escalate a little bit this year. And so we were able to see a savings on asphalt. We were estimating $150 a cubic yard. It came in at about $136 a cubic yard, which is the going rate with other communities.
Do we have a motion?
Sure. I move that this board hereby accepts the bid of $792,107 from John R. Jurgensen Company, deemed to be the most responsive and responsible bidder for the 2015 street rehab program project in accordance with the bid plans and specifications, together with a 10% contingency for a maximum appropriation of $871,318 in TIF and road and bridge funds. Further, that this board hereby authorizes and directs the township administrator to give timely notice of award to the contractor and, after consultation with the law director, to enter into contract with John R. Jurgensen Company in accordance with their bid for the 2015 street rehab program project.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes. Richard,
Thank you. I appreciate
people just don't realize that after the publicity that we've seen out of the city of Cincinnati regarding the fact that 20% of their streets were classified as poor, the key to this thing has been regularly, ongoing committing to the project. And that's how you stay up with it. If you don't do that, and if you drop off 2 or 3 years or 5 like they have, it backs up on you. So, great job. Thank you.
I think the misnomer is that people believe they can catch up. It's really a hard process. Once that deterioration curve gets heavy, it's really hard to catch up. So we have to stay the course. Of course, you know, for years we have employed a system where we put the bulk of the money on streets that are in bad condition, but we've also spent money in the middle and money at the top on roads too. And the theory there is that, you know, 100,000 at the top goes a long way and covers a lot of ground versus spending 100,000 down on the streets that really need the repair. We have probably around 5% of our inventory is in poor condition, and that's a number that we've been working to clean up over the last 10 to 15 years, and it has improved every year, and we hope that we can just continue that pace. But the key to that is being able to maintain that funding level and the board's support to work that all the way through to stay the course, so to speak.
You know, I think most people out there don't realize why you have curbs. It's not for aesthetics. It's for water, for stormwater runoff. And the cost of the curbing is so far greater than the cost for the sealing and fixing of the roads that you can only devote so much to it. And it takes a lot longer, and it involves a whole lot more greater expense. But once again, if you're consistent with it, you keep up with it.
Yeah, and that's just kind of a downside to the numbers, so to speak. You know, we saw waves of growth in the township and subdivisions. The late 60s, early 70s brought a large group of subdivisions that came in, and then 15 or 20 years ago, we saw another large group. So, you know, the downside to that is you have to replace in large waves, too, because they all age at about the same rate. So, you know, it is a battle we can win. We just have to fight it every year.
Thank you. You have a second item.
Yeah, the second item I have, I'm sorry, is the contract with Hamilton County Adult Probation. As the board is aware, one of the most pleasurable groups we deal with at Hamilton County is, of course, adult probation. They provide a valuable service to the township. They're always cooperative in nature. For the benefit of those that don't know, on an annual basis, we contract with adult probation to provide mowing services and litter pickup throughout the township. They perform landscaping and mower services on 3 of our cemeteries that the township would have the responsibility to maintain. They also do the aforementioned Hillcrest Cemetery, which is not in relationship to this project, but they do that for Hillcrest Group, and then they do special projects for us, be it litter pickup, special cleaning projects, things where labor is necessary that would be expensive otherwise. We're able to use their valuable services to us, all for a cost of $25,000 a year. Essentially what we do is we pay the supervisor and we pay for the overhead of the equipment, and of course the labor is court-appointed volunteers.
I saw a lady out there yesterday that I've seen probably for the last 10 years, but she enjoys it and she volunteers, so that's great.
Yes, they do a great job.
Do we have a motion?
I move to authorize the Township Administrator to execute a contract with the Hamilton County Board of County Commissioners on behalf of the Hamilton County Adult Probation Department in substantially the form before the board to provide for cemetery and maintenance services at a cost not to exceed $25,000.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you. The sad thing this evening is the fact that Rick Martin had to put on a tie, just did not have a report. So, thank you for coming, Rick. Township Administrator, Vicki Earhart.
Good evening again. As Ms. Comey mentioned before, she has prepared for the board's consideration 2 limited home rule resolutions and the related agreements concerning Anderson Community Television. The first resolution, if authorized by the board, would terminate the existing lease arrangement that has been in place since 2008 with Anderson Community Television. The lease would terminate, it was scheduled to terminate on January 31st of 2018, but due to the new arrangement that we've reached with ACT, we would ask that the board terminate the lease effective May 31st of 2015.
Do we have a motion?
I move to adopt a limited home rule resolution authorizing Township Administrator to enter into Anderson Center rental agreement, termination agreement, and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
And I should mention that Craig Bass, the president of Anderson Community Television, is here. He has read these documents, and ACT has no issue with either the termination or the next item, which is a resolution, again, limited home rule, which would authorize me to enter into a public access operating agreement with ACT. It would provide $30,000 funding for 1 year. It would provide for ongoing filming of Anderson Township government meetings, and if television shows or pieces are produced by the public and brought to ACT, they would be aired as time permits. It would also allow ACT to move into a space yet to be determined. It would be a much smaller space, obviously, because they're reducing to 1 employee, and we would have the editing bay space for the public to use as well. We have not decided where that equipment is ultimately going to end up, so there is a blank in the agreement at this point until we reach an agreement as to the proper location. There are several locations under consideration, but the resolution before you would allow me to enter into that agreement, which would become effective June 1st.
I move to adopt a limited home rule resolution authorizing Township Administrator to enter into public access operating agreement with Anderson Community Television and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to go out of order a little bit here. We have one item arising from executive session discussion, and that is a resolution that would authorize the acquisition of real estate.
Do we have a motion?
I move to adopt a resolution authorizing the acquisition of real estate.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Pappas?
Sounds so blanket. Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Thank you. Lastly, Mr. Sievers has an update on the Code Red test that we recently ran.
I do, and though Battalion Chief Rick Martin does not have anything on the agenda, I would ask him to stand up as well to make his putting on a suit and tie worthwhile this evening. Rick is our Code Red contact, and he would put a lot of effort and energy into this effort that we've recently undertaken. Just as a point of background, the Code Red system is a program that we've been involved with for probably almost 10 years or so, since the mid-2000s. And we've utilized this as a way that residents could subscribe in to be notified in the case of emergencies. Fortunately, we've not had to use the system that often, which is a good thing. It's a service we pay for, but we'd rather not use it if we don't have to, and we haven't. We have used it occasionally for Hurricane Ike and a few other isolated situations in the past. And one of the benefits of this system is it allows us to use GIS, Geographic Information System, to localize our message. So if we only need to reach a certain segment of the community, we can do that. We don't need to do an all call. In going through this and working with Code Red, the other benefit we have is now folks can enter their email addresses and text text numbers or cell phone numbers for text messages, which do not cost us time or minutes against our balance that we have each year. So we are contemplating using this more for general messages, but the call that was launched on May the 6th, it was a Wednesday morning at 11 a.m., was a test of that. It was a test that was of no cost to the township. At that point in time, we had just shy of 18,700 phone numbers in our system. We were pleased to, basically the system allowed us to not only figure out if all those phone numbers were valid and accurate and still were working, but it also allowed us to test the phone lines that we have to make sure it could be utilized in the case of emergency, and we found that they were. We found that actually we have a very strong infrastructure, and we were able to make over 1,000 phone calls per minute. Basically, in the first 25 minutes that we did this, we completed all those calls. The net result of that, and then follow-up calls that were made over a period of 3 days, were that we had about 12,000 accurate phone numbers. We have about 6,000 that were not, which is important to know as well, so we can weed those out of the system and they don't delay us in future messages. So the other benefit of this whole effort is it kind of increased some awareness. I know Rick has personally dealt with probably, I won't even get into the numbers of folks that have called or emailed and contacted us, but it was a very healthy exercise. I appreciate all the energies that he put into this as well, and the board's support of this. Again, the best situation is that we don't need to use it, but we'll have it in our back pocket should we need to do that. So Rick, I don't know if there's anything you want to add, but...
Well, the one thing I would mention to people that hear about the Code Red is that the information they enter into the system stays within the system. It stays with Anderson Township and the Code Red organization. There's always been some concern that this information is shared with other agencies or commercial type prospects, and it remains with us and stays confidential. That's one of the biggest issues that we've had as far as people calling. So just to basically make people aware that it does remain with us.
One, just, you would remember, Rick, one of the first usages that we were able to take advantage of with Code Red, where it came to an isolated area, was during the Marcus Faisal disappearance. And we were able to contact people within that localized geographic area rather than to bother everybody in the township. And that's the kind of thing that you can use effectively.
Absolutely.
So.
We also can use that same service for the text and email function. So if we have an isolated situation, we used it last year, I believe, when there were closures on Cleft Pike. And so we said we were able to target to a zone extending up Cleft Pike and not have to bother folks that might be living off Bernie or the southern part of the township that may never traverse that roadway. So again, we don't want to overuse it because we've told folks it's mainly for emergency purposes, but for general information too, we can utilize that service. So, and while I say that, I know former Assistant Chief Best was also very involved in this, so I should also note, Craig, thanks for all your time and efforts over the years pulling that together, and Tom Reamer as well. So.
Thank you for the update. Thanks, Rick.
No problem.
That's all we have for the board this evening.
Okay. You want to take out your pens, folks, because we got some date changes here. But first, I'd like to mention that this coming Saturday, May 23rd, will be the 8th year grand opening of our Anderson Farmers Market. They will be outside, but 8 years, hard to believe. So please stop by. Locally grown products are just starting to come on board, so while it might be a little early, maybe with this growing season, we might have more than normal. Okay, we had to make some changes to our June and July monthly board meetings. Wanted to make sure you knew about them. First, on June 4th, 10 a.m., we will be holding our annual planning meeting at the Heritage Center, and it will be an all-day event. So if you want to come and sit all day, hey, more power to you. On June 25th at 6 p.m. will be our regular June board meeting. Then on July 9th at 6 p.m. will be our regular July meeting. The reason for that is that we have to hold a public hearing for the 2016 preliminary summary tax budget, and in order to get it in a timely fashion to meet the statutory requirements, we're holding our regular meeting on July 9th. So that's the one you really want to make note of. If you have any questions, call 688-8400. Otherwise, thank you all for coming, and we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you all.